Hello everyone, welcome to my July 2018 haul video. Welcome back everyone to another haul video. This is a series of videos I do here on my channel that are exactly what the title suggests. It is basically a video where I show off all the different things that I picked up in a specific month. This happens to be July of 2018, and this month was a particularly big month, particularly for collectors and cinephiles. Every year, Barnes & Noble has a 50% off sale of all of their Criterion Collection titles in the month of July, as well as the month of November. And I picked up quite a few titles during the sale, which I will get to towards the end of the episode. First up here, let's get through all of the other non-Criterion things that I picked up. The first batch of things I have here are all things I got on Amazon's Prime Day, which was a day that they marked down a lot of things on their website. Not only movies, but all of the things. As we all know, Amazon sells pretty much everything now. First up here is a Studio Ghibli film of Pompoko. Many of the Studio Ghibli films are being re-released by G-Kids through Shout Factory, and I've been picking up a lot of the Blu-rays now for almost a year, and I'm almost caught up. I think I'm missing a couple, but I have to check up on that. Next up here is a rebuy or an upgrade to 4K, and that is Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Coincidentally, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was one of the first DVDs I ever bought way back in probably 2001, 2002, around there when DVDs were really starting to become mainstream. I've had the Blu-ray for years, but I wanted to upgrade to the 4K, and I have to say it looks very good. It is a little more grainy than I think people are used to when it comes to 4K, but I personally didn't mind it because I think this film is incredible no matter what. Next up here is another UHD 4K release, and that is Across the Universe. I have only seen this film for the first time recently. I've never owned it in any format at all, and I really liked it a lot. It is a musical that is based on the songs from the Beatles. And next up here is kind of a rebuy, kind of not, and that is the extended edition Blu-ray of The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies. This is the only version of The Hobbit that I didn't own. If you've seen behind me, I own quite a few versions of The Hobbit. I know a lot of Lord of the Rings fans and just movie fans in general do not like the Hobbit series of movies. I personally really like them. Are they Lord of the Rings level quality? No, but I really love being in the world of Middle-earth as much as I possibly can. And next up here, the final thing that I got from Amazon Prime Day, and that is the 4K UHD edition of E.T. I've owned E.T. on Blu-ray already, but they had a special gold box deal where this set here was only $10, so I had to take advantage of it. This edition specifically comes with not only the UHD and Blu-ray and digital HD, but also the CD soundtrack as well as a collectible book, so it's a nice little compact edition. Next up here are just a bunch of Blu-rays that I happened to pick up randomly all at once. They were all really relatively cheap, so I was really happy about that, and they're all things that have been missing from my collection. The first three here are actually all DC animated films. First up here is All-Star Superman with the slipcover. If you're not familiar with the DC animated movies, their slipcovers become very difficult to get if you don't get them when they come out. Some of them are long sought after. People pay ridiculous amounts on eBay for them. The next film up here is Batman Year One. If you have not read the comic book Batman Year One by Frank Miller, I highly recommend you do. It is a fantastic, groundbreaking comic for the Batman character. Next up here is something I was very surprised to find the slipcover for, because I know it has been quite a rarity to find it over the last few years, and that is Wonder Woman. And this is particularly interesting because this came out before the live-action Wonder Woman film. This was kind of the only Wonder Woman movie proper that we had until, of course, the live-action film. We did, of course, have a live-action Wonder Woman in Linda Carter back in the 1970s television series. Next up here is an underrated comedy, in my opinion, and that is The Night Before, which stars Seth Rogen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Anthony Mackie. Michael Shannon has a fantastic, brilliant, small role in this film that is so damn hilarious that he steals every scene he is in. And finally here is the Academy Award-winning film Still Alice. I feel like a lot of people don't remember this movie because it is a film that is rather depressing, but does have an Oscar-winning performance from Julianne Moore, who is one of my favorite actresses. Now we get to the portion of the episode that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, and that is all of the Criterion Collection Blu-rays that I picked up during the sale, and these are in no particular order. If you're curious which order I bought them in, they're all up on my Instagram. First up here we have Dead Man, a film by Jim Jarmusch. Jim Jarmusch is a great indie film director. If you haven't checked out his work, I highly recommend that you do. It is so different than a lot of the films that you've seen. He's very laid back and very reserved, but his films are very brilliant. The next film here is an all-time classic. This is a film I've been wanting to get for about 7 years now, but I was waiting for the Blu-ray to finally come out, and it did, and that is The Passion of Joan of Arc by Carl Theodor Dreyer. This is a silent film, but don't be afraid of silent movies. They are part of cinematic history. They are an important part of cinematic history, and definitely check this film out if you haven't. It is gorgeous, it's brilliant, it's amazing. Next up here is a film by one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and that is Satyajit Ray, The Hero. This film, as well as all of the films I've seen from Satyajit Ray so far, have been masterpieces. He is a director that I'm just delving into his work now, and I'm surprised his work is not praised more. If you haven't seen the video I did about the Apu trilogy, please check that out. Next here is a director who needs no introduction, and that is Martin Scorsese in his film The Age of Innocence. This is actually one of the only Martin Scorsese films that I haven't seen and did not own previously. This is not his first foray into the collection. His film The Last Temptation of Christ is also part of the collection, so check that one out as well as this one here. Ingmar Bergman's The Virgin Spring. This is a fantastic film. Ingmar Bergman is an all-time master. I have this saying that I keep saying, I thought I knew what film was, and then I watch a Bergman film and I realize that I know absolutely nothing. That is how profound his films are. Next up here is Louis Malle's Elevator to the Gallows. Check this film out if you haven't. It's a cool, dark film noir. I think Louis Malle is a rather underrated director that doesn't get a lot of praise. Next here is Sofia Coppola's The Virgin Suicides. Yet again, this is another film that I've been waiting years to add to the collection, hoping that there would be a Blu-ray that would come out. It just happened to be that Criterion was waiting to put it out themselves, and this is a fantastic, amazing movie by Sofia Coppola. Next up here, I have our two box sets. The first up here is a Blu-ray box set called Dietrich and von Sternberg in Hollywood. If you're not familiar with the pairing of Joseph von Sternberg and Marlene Dietrich, this is definitely the set for you to get into that, because they work together on several movies, and a lot of them are contained here in this set. And Marlene Dietrich is one of my favorite actresses of all time. Joseph von Sternberg is a great director. This is probably a set that I'll delve into in a more elaborate review later on, but right now I'm very happy that Criterion put this set out. Next up here is an Eclipse set, which is a DVD set, and that is Ingrid Bergman's Swedish Years. If you're familiar with the last video I did, I talked about how much I love Ingrid Bergman and how I was looking forward to getting this set, and now I finally have this set, and I'm so glad to add it to the collection. I don't pick up many of the Eclipse sets, and that's not because I don't like them or anything like that. It's just there are so many of them, and my priority tends to lie more towards the Blu-rays. Next up here is a film that is not only one of my highly anticipated releases from Criterion, but also one of my highly anticipated releases of all year, and that is A Matter of Life and Death by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. I am a huge fan of both Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. I own now all of the films that Criterion has put out on Blu-ray. Hopefully they'll continue to put out a lot more of their work, because these two put out some fantastic films, and this film is no exception. This is an astonishing, just masterpiece of a film. Next up here is a film by one of my cinematic heroes, and that is John Waters' Female Trouble. This is the film that he did after his much infamous Pink Flamingos, which hopefully someday could make it onto the Criterion collection. That would be certainly one I would pick up, and I'm sure many would as well. These films are so unique, so trashy. They are truly some things you just have to experience for yourselves, because you will end up asking yourself, what did I just watch? And next up here is a film that actually just went out of print during the sale, coincidentally, and that is The Confession by Costa Gavras. So if you have not picked this up yet, and you wanted to pick this up, I would get my hands on this as soon as you can, even if you have to pay full price, because once it's gone, it's going to be difficult to get for a reasonable price. Next up here is a film that is one of my favorites from this particular director, and that is Sex Lies and Videotape. I was astonished that they were re-releasing this on Blu-ray. There was already a Blu-ray of this years ago, but this of course has a brand new transfer, as well as some extras that that one doesn't have, and this is probably something I'm going to delve into in a review all by itself, because it's a film that had a very profound effect on me when I watched it for the first time. Next up here is an upgrade from a DVD that I've had for a few years, and that is Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters by Paul Schrader. This is probably Paul Schrader's best directed film, at least from all of the Paul Schrader films that I've seen. This is an astonishing, brilliantly aesthetic film that I highly recommend people check out if you're a fan of Japanese cinema. And finally, lastly, this is probably the film that is one of the more mainstream films that Criterion has released, and that is The Silence of the Lambs by Jonathan Demme. They released a DVD of this years ago, which I actually do have. As you can see here, it is number 13 in the collection, so it has been in the collection for a very long time, and I'm really glad they decided to re-release it, giving it a new restoration, because the other Blu-ray that was put out a few years ago doesn't look very good. This looks much better, so I highly recommend getting this one over that other one, regardless of what the price difference is. So that has been my July 2018 haul video. If there's anything you want to see in more depth, please let me know, and I will either discuss it with you below or do an individual review on it when I get a chance. If you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel.